The Media Center for Art Education and Technology, a service of the Monterey County Office of Education, along with the Herald Live, presents PrepNation. Now to your hosts, Tommy Wright and John Devine.
Are Palma and Seaside headed for a showdown of unbeatens next week? Is Carmel's run of supremacy over? And who is Santee? Welcome back to the Nation. Along co-host Tommy Wright, I'm John Devine. Tommy, Santee High. You and I both looked at them on the Google, I guess when we found out about this back in the spring, and the first thing we came up was a riot in central Los Angeles. But I guess they can play some football.
Yeah, apparently they were in the playoffs last year. They had a losing record overall, but that's only after a playoff loss. They did have a winning record in league play, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, here's what Monterey coach Tom Newton had to say about Santee.
Santee High School, don't know much about them traditionally, but I know that this year they are big, physical, and they have an identity. They're a pretty solid football team. They've had two setbacks already, but the two games they've had, they were tough games physically. They have an identity. Like I said, they run an I-back formation, but they scrum quite a bit out of it. They're coming downhill. They like Trey. At one point, they ran 13 plays in a row, and that's how you know it's a good football team. When you can run 13 plays, the same play, in a row, and be successful with it, you know that team is good. They run a 4-4. They're going to be very active, and we got to prepare well for this team. They're a good football team.
Tom, how do you find these schools? Last week you had Gridley from Northern California came to town. Now you've got a school coming from the heart of Los Angeles to the peninsula.
Yeah, a lot of people speculate about trying to find these teams, but the reality of it all is that Gridley was a team that we had to find out of necessity because our first game canceled on us and didn't really tell us until end of June. That was kind of a close to a heart attack situation for me. But Santee, we actually were contacted by Santee around the end of January, and they said they wanted to come up here, one-year contract. They'd love to just come up, and because their head coach is a former Monterey High graduate.
Really?
So pretty exciting, and it's going to be a good game. Should be a pretty good game to watch.
Yeah, we should know too that Gridley last year went to the playoffs, and Santee also went to the playoffs last year. So these aren't two cream puffs you guys have played.
No, Gridley has had some success. New coach in the past couple years, and Santee, their coach, has been there for a while. A lot of speed, a lot of athleticism, and a proud program. They were 5-5 last year, lost in the first round. But you're right, two playoff programs, and they expect to do well. So like I said, this team's coming up here, and they're not coming up here to lose.
Yeah. Tom, good start to the season, obviously, with a 49-0 win over Gridley. I think he had almost 400 rushing yards in the game on what you mentioned, I think 25 carries the entire game, something like that, 25 plays.
Yeah, we had about 25 plays. We were just fortunate the ball bounced our way a couple times. It's not going to go that way all the time, but we were resilient. The boys ran the ball well. It's tough to stop the option right now with the way that our backfield's running. I mean, we literally returned their entire backfield. So that's something that not a lot of teams get the benefit of. We're very, very lucky. It's the first time we've ever had a returning starter at quarterback in the 6 years that I've been at Monterey High. We've always had a senior. So it's showing. It's showing. The offense is humming along. We look fast. We're priding ourselves on being fast right now and putting pressure on the defense. And that's what we're doing. So it looked good. Had a lot of penalties. Didn't like that at all. So we have a lot of room to grow still. We have a lot of area to improve upon. But first game, we're okay.
So you're starting to see that chemistry develop a little bit with this program and this group of kids.
Sure. Over the long season, I mean, you got to be able to build chemistry. We are, like I said, very fortunate to have as many returning starters as we do. The chemistry is going to be something that develops over time. I mean, you have to build confidence, and you have to build the rapport with one another. Again, the returning starters, the language, it helps out so much when everybody can be on the same page like that. Expectations are high for this group from each other, and that's what's important.
Tom, is there enough time? You got 2 weeks after Friday you open league. I believe you open with Palma and San Benito. It's all on the horizon. It's a whole new league for you this year. Is 2 weeks enough time to prepare?
Sure. I mean, everybody else gets the same amount of time for the most part. We just got to play the guys in front of us. Santee, good team. PG, got to see them beat Pajaro. Nobody's a slouch. I mean, this year especially, you got to really prepare well. But, I mean, you got to do what you do. You got to trust in your system, and the results are going to be there. If you have the players buying into your system and you go about it, I mean, you're going to do fine. I'm not worried about who the opponent is. I'm worried about Monterey High School.
Sure. Now, you're 13-0 on this site over the last 2.5 years, actually. Is there something about this place other than the gorgeous setting?
It's a lot of history here on this field. I played on it when it was dirt, and it didn't look nearly as well as this. But this place is a pretty special place, and a lot of the old Monterey faithful come out to watch. And I don't know. There is something pretty special about that. We like to line up on the M and make sure that we defend it pretty well, when we have home games coming up that week. So we're very excited, and yes, this place is pretty special. We're excited to get to be able to defend that home record.
All right, thanks, Tom. All right, Tommy, we've heard from the coach, but here's my question. Is Monterey helping themselves by playing these schools? Now, granted, Gridley and Santee both went to the postseason last year in small leagues, but Monterey's in a power league this year. They've got San Benito, they've got Salinas, they've got Palma. Are they properly preparing themselves?
Yeah, I'm not sure they're doing themselves any favors facing these teams. They're probably not facing the same level of play that they're going to be facing once they get into league play here.
Yeah, I agree. We did ask Monterey quarterback Jimmy Hill his feelings on playing in the Monterey Bay League's upper division, despite it being the smallest school, public school-wise, and we asked him a little bit about Santee.
Santee is a real talented team. Been watching film for them the past couple days, and they know what they want to do with the football. They want to run it out at you, just like we do. Last game, they only threw the ball 5 times, and that was from being behind. So they know what they want to do. They're going to run the scrum. They're going to get the quarterback to toss it. They're going to use him as a blocker. They're going to do everything that they can. They're a big team, fast team, physical team, but we just have to worry about what we're going to do, and we're going to go out there and hopefully handle what we need to handle.
Now, Jimmy, we didn't talk about this before we came on, but you just mentioned something to me. So are they similar to Monterey in terms of what they do?
Not exactly in the type of offense that they run, but they know that they want to run the ball.
Okay, yeah. Obviously, Monterey, talented team this year, but are you concerned at all about your depth? It's not big numbers for a team playing in the NBL's Gavilan division. Can Monterey withstand the physical toll of playing the Montereys, the San Benitos, and the Salinas week in and week out?
Well, times like this, it just really, hopefully you can depend on what you did in the offseason. Hopefully that'll make you durable enough for the season. Obviously, we don't have enough people as other teams, but I'll take our 11 7 days out of the week.
Yeah, and obviously you guys played well against Bellarmine in a scrimmage earlier this year, right?
Yeah, and that's with our 2 starting running backs being absent.
Wow,
so.
okay. Talked about the running game a little bit here. Obviously, Monterey makes no secret what they're going to do. You're going to run the ball. Opponents are going to stack 9 in the box. This offense is older than dirt, but it works. How does it keep working?
Well, we predicate our offense on passing levels, so it actually plays into our favor when they want to send blitz packages, want to put 9 in the box, because that makes that first level that much faster to get past. And then that just leaves our running backs in the open field with one-on-one matchups, which we'll gladly take.
You got some running backs this year. I mean, with Ambrose back, Deontay's out there, Kyle Neely, yourself.
Yeah, and we still have Sean and Anthony Arzadana. I mean, it's tough. I mean, I want to go out on a limb, and I'd say I'd take our backfield over any right now.
That's one area, obviously, where you guys do have some depth.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to say, is that our skills, we return all of our skills from last year. So if there's one area that we do have depth, it's in our backfield and at our receivers' positions.
Now, Jimmy, obviously you got an arm. I've seen you behind the plate in baseball. You gonna air it out at some point this year? I mean, I know you want to.
That's the plan. That's the plan.
Hey, and before we get out of here, who's the fastest guy on the team?
That's a tough one to say.
How about if I say you? I've seen you steal bags.
Yeah, there's no chance of that one.
Anybody in mind? Dante?
I don't know. It's neck and neck. You just have to come out and watch us do pursuit drills, I guess.
But it's not you.
Definitely not.
All right, thanks, Jimmy. All right, Tommy, other than confidence, does Monterey gain anything out of this?
I don't know that they gain a lot. They are getting to evaluate their players as all the other teams during their non-league schedule, but other than that, I'm not sure that there's too much that they can take out of this.
Yeah, all right, well, moving on. Palma will host St. Joseph of Santa Maria on Friday as part of their Catholic school tour. Last year, the Chieftains rallied from a 10-point halftime deficit to beat the Southern Section Powers 14-10. Tommy, I think St. Joseph is a little better this year at 1-1. That one loss being a 3-point nail-biter to Santa Barbara.
Yeah, I think they're looking pretty good so far. That's a close loss. They're pretty competitive so far.
Sure. I saw Palma last week in its 12-7 win over St. Francis of Mountain View. What impressed me, Tommy, was their defense. It created 4 turnovers and shut down St. Francis's Wildcat. I think Austin Wall calmed head coach Jeff Carnazzo's nerves a little bit about the secondary with 2 interceptions. Palma had 4 interceptions, actually had 5, but one was called back because of roughing the passer penalty. Tommy, Palma put pressure on St. Francis's quarterback all night. The interior line has 2 Division I prospects. Will St. Joseph's be able to move the ball?
From what I've read, I don't know that anybody can move the ball against Palma right now. They're looking pretty stout on defense.
Yeah, I agree. What was uncharacteristic about Palma was the penalties last week. They had 2 or 3 unsportsmanlike penalties and roughing the passers. I think that's got to be cleaned up. All right, the game that has a lot of people talking this week is Seaside venturing over to Soquel to face the unbeaten Knights. Hey, the Knights made a statement last week with a 48-20 win over Carmel, ending the Padres' 16-game home winning streak. Tommy, the Knights have 8 players going both ways. This team held up quite well against Carmel in the sun on Saturday, but can it survive health-wise for a full season with so many guys going both ways?
It's going to be tough over time. At some point, I'm going to have to figure they're going to have to get some kind of rotation going with some of them, because to go full season with that many guys going both ways is too difficult.
Yeah, I don't know if that's possible, because they only have about 25, 26 kids on that roster. SoCal runs a double wing offense where everybody bunches up together behind the quarterback. It's something I haven't seen in the CCS anywhere in the last 10 years. It's difficult to stop those, evident by SoCal having scored 100 points in their first 2 games. Seaside's defense now, that's been their Achilles heel the last 2 years, and Fabiano Hale, he's a real deal.
Yeah, and Brian Reyes, running back, he also piled up 100 yards against Carmel last week.
Yeah, both those kids over 100-yard games in the first 2 games of the year. Seaside dropped 48 on Jefferson with a running clock and midway through the first quarter. It is amazing. Now, we know that offense is dangerous, so are we looking at a shootout this week?
I would expect a shootout. I would expect some high scores.
You know, back in 2000 when I got here, Stevenson won its first and only MTL title with a 10-0 season with 9 players going both ways. So it is possible.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Hey, you're headed over to the Pacific Grove to watch the unbeaten Breakers host winless Christopher, who won to share the NBL title last year. Now, Tommy, I think Christopher's record is a little misleading. Both their losses were shootouts to Sobrato and Live Oak and Morgan Hill.
Yeah, I think they're better than the record indicates. I would expect them to do just fine once league play comes around.
Now, of course, this team was gutted by graduation, losing over 80% of its offense. But offense hasn't seemed to be the problem, has it?
No, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, the Breakers jumped all over Pajaro Valley, building a 21-0 first-half lead behind quarterback Luke Lowe, who's now, as a junior, is kind of a little experienced back there. I got to believe this will be a better gauge for Pacific Grove, who fell to Christopher 40-0 last year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see what happens. Think it should be a good game.
You'll be there. All right, hey, a game that intrigues me a little bit is North Salinas and Soledad, 2 teams that I believe, and still do, have playoff potential. Both these teams are looking for their first wins of the season, Tommy. Is it too early to call this a must-win, especially for Soledad? They're 0-2. Certainly the Aztecs do not want to go into league play 0-3.
Yeah, I mean, record-wise, obviously, they can go in a league play and dominate, but I think for their confidence, they need to get a win.
I agree. North Salinas' only win last year was to Soledad, who went on to make the postseason for the first time in school history. Now, North Salinas has had 2 weeks to digest the loss to Carmel. In that game, the Vikes gave up 4 touchdowns at 21 yards or longer. Tommy, is that more about breakdowns on defense, you think?
I think it is. You can't be allowing those big plays. Those are going to kill you in the long run.
Yeah. Now, Tommy, you saw Soledad quarterback Fernando Longoria throw for the second highest total in Soledad school history, 268 yards in a loss to Alisal. But Soledad only got in the end zone 1 time. How come?
It seemed like their offense was still a work in progress. There was some minor miscommunications between the quarterback and his wide receivers. They had to run back for some of his passes, but I think that is something that they're going to work out, and I would expect them to get into the end zone more.
Hopefully real soon, because Soledad has only scored 1 touchdown in 8 quarters this year. However, North Salinas better be ready for those 30-mile-per-hour gales down in South Kenny. You know about that.
Pretty windy.
Rounding out the rest of the schedules, Marina opened in its season hosting St. Francis Catholic at MPC on Friday. Now, Tommy, this team has dropped its first 17 games of 11-man football. We were out there for the start of their practice. We saw what these kids and coaches are going through in terms of some of the awful conditions and facilities they have at Marina. Can Vernon Calhoun turn this around?
Yeah, it's a tough situation. I think it's something that he can turn around in the long run, but probably not this year, maybe not next year. It's a long-term situation.
He's got to get these kids to believe in that program first. I mean, otherwise they're going to keep going to Monterey and Seaside.
Yeah, exactly. He's got to keep the kids there.
Sure. Surging Alisal will visit Del Mar, who got waxed by Monte Vista Christian this season over at 64-0. Alisal's coming off a 44-point uprising, its largest total since 2007. North County, who blanked Soledad in its season opener, will travel to face Hillmar. Let me tell you something about Hillmar now you didn't know. They are the defending Sac Joaquin section champions. They were 12-2 last year, and they beat Escalon, who's a power. This team's legit.
Yeah, definitely.
On Saturday, Carmel will host Alvarez, and I'll tell you what, if Carmel quarterback Connor Martin is not available, this could be a game.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, you'll be there.
I'm looking forward to it.
Gonzales and Pajaro Valley will meet for just the 3rd time ever. Pajaro Valley has won their first 2 meetings. These are 2 teams kind of, you know, still looking for an identity a little bit, both winless right now. Hey, just a quick note, Greenfield, Stevenson, King City, and Salinas all have byes this week. So if you're looking for a little bit of a college fix on Saturday, Hartnell will look to snap a 2-game losing streak when it hosts Mendocino at 2 p.m. at the Pit, while NPC visits Foothill at Los Altos at 7 p.m. Before we get out of here, 2 distance aces, Tommy, to keep an eye on include North Salinas' Ivan Pena and Greenfield's Randy Sosa. I think these 2 kids are state-bound and cross-country. Also, the CSUMB women's volleyball team is off to a 6-2 start behind 2 former local standouts in Julia Ashton and Lacey Ventura. Tommy, why does this conference play their matches on Friday during football season? I mean, this team's worth watching.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I'm sure it's just something with the league. But it's tough because they have a great program out there. Not a lot of people are watching what's going on.
I know. Hey, and Monterey girls water polo team, 51 goals in 3 games. However, last year they scored 58 in their first 3 games. They're a little behind their pace. Hey, let's do this again next week and see if we can do a little better job.
Sounds good.
All right.